at the beginning of the 5th century BC, the ancient world was dominated by the Achaemenid Empire, commonly referred to as the First Persian Empire. It was the largest empire the world had ever known, extending from the Balkan Peninsula in the west to the Indus Valley in the east, with a multitude of different peoples and cultures living under its rule. The empire had 5 principal cities, each of which had served as a capital at different periods in its history. Persepolis acted as a ceremonial capital. The man who ruled over this vast empire was Darius I, otherwise known as Darius the Great, King of Kings. In order to govern such a diverse territory, the Persians divided the land into administrative provinces called satrapies that were governed by satraps, local rulers who governed in the name of the king, administrating affairs, collecting taxes, and acting as the supreme judge of their province. Along the western boundary of the empire lay the region of Ionia, within which were located a number of Greek cities. The Persians had long struggled to control the independent-minded Greeks, and had appointed local Greek rulers named tyrants to govern the major cities. Tyranny in ancient Greece was a form of governance by which a ruler gained power through unconventional means, often by force as opposed to the constitutional authority of a king or an elected leader. Dissatisfaction amongst the Greek cities of Ionia and the rest of Asia Minor with the tyrants imposed on them by their Persian overlords ran high. The region was ripe for rebellion. All that was needed was a spark to light the touchpaper of revolt. That spark came in the spring of 499 BC, when Aristagoras, the tyrant of the Greek city of Miletus, launched an expedition with Persian support to conquer the island of Naxos. The enterprise was a debacle, and to preempt his inevitable dismissal by the Persians, Aristagoras abdicated and declared Miletus a democracy. Other Ionian cities followed suit, and soon the Persians were faced with a full-scale rebellion of the Greek cities of Asia Minor. This was the beginning of a series of conflicts between the Persian Empire and the Greek city-states over the following 50 years that would go on to be known as the Greco-Persian Wars. Aristagoras looked across the Aegean Sea to recruit allies amongst fellow Greeks for the rebellion against the Persians. He first sailed to Sparta, the preeminent Greek military power of the time, but found his requests for support rejected by the Spartan king Cleomenes. Undeterred, Aristagoras travelled to Athens, where his petitions found a more sympathetic ear from the Athenians, who were already enemies of the Persians. He also managed to gain the support of the mercantile city of Eretria. With military and financial support from the Athenians and Eretrians, the rebellion lasted for 6 years, until finally, in 493 BC, the last of the Greek resistance in Asia Minor was crushed, and the pacified region was brought back under Persian control. The Persian king, Darius the Great, vowed to punish Athens and Eretria for their support of the revolt, and soon determined to conquer the whole of Greece, thus expanding his empire into Europe and crushing the troublesome Greek states once and for all. In 492 BC, a Persian expeditionary force consisting of a fleet and a land army was assembled under the command of Mardonius, the son-in-law of Darius. Setting off from Cilicia, on the south coast of Asia Minor, the army began their long march northwestward, whilst the navy sailed around the coast of Asia Minor to rendezvous with the army at the Hellespont, the gateway to Europe. After being transported across the strait by the navy, the army headed westward into Thrace, whilst the navy mirrored their progress along the coast. Following the successful re-subjugation of the Thracians and the conquest of Macedonia, the Persian forces decided to return back to the Hellespont after Mardonius was wounded in the fighting and a ferocious storm sunk many of the Persian ships. Despite these setbacks, a clear message had been sent to the Greeks of Darius's intentions and his capacity to realise them. The following year, the Persian king sent his ambassadors to the Greek states, asking for earth and water, a traditional token of submission. Fearful of the wrath of Darius, most of the Greek states agreed to his terms. Crucially, however, Athens and Sparta, the two most powerful forces in Greece, did not submit. In Athens, the Persian ambassadors were put on trial and executed. In Sparta, the ambassadors were not even afforded the privilege of a trial, and were simply thrown down a well. The battle lines had been firmly drawn as the Athenians and Spartans stood together to resist the Persian invader. Enraged by the blatant disregard shown by the Greeks for the accepted international convention that guaranteed safe passage for ambassadors, Darius ordered his forces to crush the Greek cities that had not submitted to his rule. In 490 BC, the Persian navy once again set sail from Cilicia, this time carrying an invasion force that would strike directly at the Greek city-states. In charge of the Persian forces were the Median admiral Datis and the Persian general Artaphernes, who was also the nephew of the king Darius. The fleet rounded the coast of Asia Minor and then headed out across the Aegean, attacking Greek islands as they went. The islanders of Naxos were punished for their resistance to the attempted Persian invasion a decade earlier that had been the catalyst for the Ionian revolt. The city and temples of the island were burnt to the ground, and the population of the island enslaved. Finally, the Persian fleet reached the Greek mainland, and the Persian army besieged the city of Eretria. After 6 days of fighting, the Eretrians were betrayed by 2 of their own citizens, who opened the gates of the city to the Persians. Once inside the city walls, the Persians administered the same revenge on the Eretrians as they had dealt to the unfortunate islanders of Naxos. The city was looted, the temples burned, statues destroyed, and the inhabitants enslaved. With the fall of Eretria, the Persians turned their attention to the other great supporter of the Ionian revolt, Athens. The task force headed south and landed at the Bay of Marathon, just 25 miles from Athens. As panic swept the city, the Athenian army marched north to engage with the invaders, and the 2 armies met on the plain of Marathon. In support of the Athenians, the city-state of Plataea sent a force of 1,000 hoplites to join the 10,000 Athenian troops. Together the allied numbers were still far fewer than the 26,000 Persian troops that they faced. Heavily outnumbered, the Athenian generals sent an Athenian messenger runner named Phidippides to Sparta requesting support. However, the Spartans were in the middle of the religious festival of Carneia. There was a sacrosanct period of peace in Spartan culture. The Spartans gave assurances that reinforcements would come, but that the Spartan forces would not be able to march to war until the rising of the full moon. The Athenians would have to wait for at least 10 days for the Spartans to arrive. After 5 days of stalemate, during which the Persian and Athenian armies observed each other across the Marathon plain, it was the Athenian generals who finally gave the order to advance against the enemy. In spite of the clear Persian numerical supremacy, the Athenian hoplites managed to gain the upper hand in the battle, and the Persians fled the battlefield for the safety of their ships. The Persians had failed in their primary objective to crush the Greek city-states who had supported the Ionian revolt. However, they had still managed to expand their influence in the Balkan Peninsula. Thrace remained under Persian control, and Macedonia was reduced to a subordinate kingdom of the Persian Empire. Greece was saved for now. However, Darius did not abandon his ambition to one day invade the whole of Greece and punish the Greek state that had defied him. If you have enjoyed this production, please consider supporting the channel by leaving a like and/or subscribing to the channel.